welcome back to another episode of Not Another Podcast. I'm James Jimneso Cowan. Joining me on the couch once again is Baal Carlson, Geordie McAleer, and in amidst the clouds of smoke that Sean is pluming, we have Iain Snyper Turner.
It's vape, all right? Not smoke, it's vape.
Well, either way, it's a plume.
Yeah, it is.
Not
For
a
those out
flume.
there listening on the podcast.
You wouldn't want to be a flume right now. Anyway, that's another world of events. Anyway,
5 seconds in, we've already derailed.
Great start, boys.
This whole thing started on a derailment track from the
I knew
get-go.
I shouldn't have put the gingers together.
We're touching knees. This is nice.
That's right. You
It's
guys have
actually
swapped
really
seats. So normally we have Iain in the middle,
Yeah.
and this,
I think the middle is the hot seat.
it is.
I'm not in the hot seat.
Max in the hot seat today. But we've also
Pretty
got
cold.
more greenery around the actual set itself. So we've got some IKEA plants, and effectively we've got
Hey, don't give away brands.
some fans.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, we've got some ferns. We've got
Yeah.
basically a whole heap of thorns between ferns.
Because we're on YouTube, I just found out. So you can watch us. Obviously, it's a podcast. That's its primary sort of function. But you can watch us on YouTube. Is that right, Iain?
You can just upset your eyes as much as your ears now. Yeah.
You can see
You can
Ian's
watch
new
it.
socks and
Oh, here we go.
all sorts of cool
Getting into me
things.
for my
And then
socks again.
I just want Pilly to know that Baal said no one watches us out there, and I know Pilly said, "Yeah, I'll watch it on YouTube."
Does Pilly watch us on YouTube?
It's
So-
it's easier to watch it on
you
YouTube
go.
than it is to
Yeah.
Love you,
listen
Pilly.
through a podcast app.
Quick shout out to all our listener on YouTube. Anyway,
Listen.
yeah.
Oh, you took the S off. Oh, that's a joke for those that know plurals.
You really do get comedy, Ian.
Yeah.
You really do get
Exactly.
comedy. That's what I appreciate
It's better
about
when you
your
explain
humor the
it.
most.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when it just becomes Captain Obvious to the rescue.
For
Those of you who weren't paying attention.
I
Okay.
do apologize.
Anyway, yeah, this is a serious derailment to the start of it. Now, you guys have, I understand, been adventuring recently. Normally, we are based in sunny Sydney, but for the weekend just gone, the two of you, and I say the two of you, we have Baal and Mac. You guys visited interstate. You went to MEO, the Melbourne Esports Open. You saw the sights. You tasted the delights. Whatever else. You also made some content, I understand, as well. Give us a
Yep.
bit of a rundown. How was it?
Oh, it was great.
That's it. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, that's it. No,
I had a great time as well.
It was really good. No, it was a really good event. Like, obviously I went to the last one. This is the second one from, I think they're doing 5 over 5 years. So we're almost hitting the halfway point now. They had increased amount of people there. So that was good. To be honest, when I walked in, it actually felt like it was not as packed and I was a bit concerned, but they used far more area. So this time they had Melbourne Arena and stuff like that as well, which they had set up. So it was really good.
Yeah, and just quickly for those of you that aren't aware of what Melbourne Esports Open is, it's basically a whole heap of different esports events coming together under one roof. They run a whole heap of different areas, from like activation areas, game areas, whole heap of open tournaments as well that people can participate in, and as well as obviously hosting the OPL and Overwatch Contenders finals this year. Sadly, there wasn't any CS there.
No Counter-Strike. They had
Well,
Rainbow
there
Six
was a
there was
free
the
play
2v2
Counter Strike,
thing.
2v2 comp.
Wingman
They did try very hard to find the space and time and logistics and manpower to get a Counter Strike thing going.
Yeah.
But it wasn't there
We just call
because
that
No.
people
they already were
power.
bringing in volleys from all around the country, international as well. People flying in from Hong Kong to help
Absolutely,
out.
yeah.
And it
Yeah, so
just would have been logistically crazy.
Yeah, they had some international flavour there as well this year, I think, with some international Overwatch and League of Legends teams.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was Golden Guardians from League of Legends
Yeah.
and Washington Justice, if I'm
Yep,
not mistaken,
that's right.
from Overwatch.
Washington from Overwatch.
I know esports.
What did they do?
Look at you.
So they
I know
did
there
show
was-
matches,
there
right?
was show
So
matches, was it?
Golden Guardians is interesting because they have an Australian player in their roster, which is FBI. He played for Essendon last split, or the Bombers, I should actually call them, last split, and then got picked up to them. So they came across to do some show matches.
So they bombed without him, didn't they? This split.
Essendon, yeah, they did. Essendon didn't do as well this split, but they lost 2 of their core players from last split to this split.
Were they called Essendon this season?
No, they're called the Bombers. I don't know why I keep calling them Essendon.
Yeah,
but,
it's really weird.
but
You're
they-
an AFL fan.
yeah, but they've got the Essendon are the Bombers, right? That's
Yeah,
and
but
they've got
even
the same logo. and
When I watch
it's-
AFL, I just call them the Bombers. I've never heard them call. If people say Essendon, I think it's a different team.
Well, there's the Dons. Like, there's all sorts of different terms for them, right? So,
Jacket
they all
wavers.
train out at Windy Hill.
yeah,
They're the jacket wavers, yeah?
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
No,
The
it was
scarf.
The scarf.
The sheety scarf.
Doesn't matter. I can wave anything.
Come
you
on,
like,
I'm from-
guys.
Yeah, yeah.
I do not discriminate against clothing.
Wave some colourful socks, you know.
So, but other than that, like you pointed out, obviously Overwatch and League of Legends, two of the bigger titles there, Mac. But then you also had Rainbow Six had an 8-team LAN there as well. The Rainbow Six Masters, I think it was called.
Yeah,
Oh,
the Masters.
correct.
Six Masters.
Yeah,
And that
Six
was
Masters.
really exciting. We were both there
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
very end as well. And I was speaking to Magnet like later on that night at
So
GG
Magnets
Easy.
from which team?
Fnatic.
Okay.
So, currently the best team in Australia, debatable depending on who you talk to,
Yeah.
but they did just win. So after the first map, I think August, who they were taking on in the grand final, were beating them, and then they yelled out something, being land next to each other, and Magnet was like, "No, we're winning this now." And then from that point, just started playing.
It was very
Pretty nuts,
close
so.
too, because like you said, August took the first map pretty convincingly from memory.
Yes.
Well, at least they were up sort of
7-1.
6-1 or 7-1 at one point. We're able to close that out. Maps 2 and 3 though were back and forth affairs.
Yep.
At any point, August, they were in positions to win, but they just weren't able to close it out. Credit to Fnatic, they did come back with the reverse sweep, and they had a great series and won the 6 Masters. But I think the big thing about that as well is an 8-team LAN, right? Having 8 Rainbow Six teams there is
Were
big
any of
for
them
the
from
scene.
Japan or anything like that?
Nah, this is all local teams.
All domestic.
Last year they had Japan there.
Well, they had it was the finals of I think it was not Pro League. I feel like saying or something like that. That was to qualify
It
for
was
the
Last
six,
Worlds.
year?
six invitational.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
and then they
different
had
to the Masters.
Oh, yeah.
Nora Renga and
Nor
things like
Rango.
that.
I would
Yeah, yeah.
I'd much rather see us against international opposition than just a shit fight.
I still think it's good for some of the local orgs and some of the
Yeah.
developing squads to
Sure.
get that LAN opportunity.
Grassroots.
Yeah, grassroots stuff. So that was great. There was also a Fortnite stage that was very popular. By all
Always.
reports, the ages of people involved in that, you had, from 6 years old all the way up to 60 years old.
Best part about that, it was an open tournament, and they had to break bad news to people on the day because they had so many people trying to sign up, but
Yeah.
they could only have 250 people or something, maybe 350 people in 7 or 8 or 9 sessions throughout the day. And they had to have someone like a volley standing at the point of the line where they were assuming was about 350 people,
Yeah.
and had to say, "Oh, look, you might get to play, but also this is like the cutoff." So
There was the absolute cutoff.
yeah,
It hurts how popular Fortnite is, though. People lining up.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's done wonders for esports as far as hitting the mainstream. You have to give it that.
Yeah.
So obviously those two are Six Masters, and the Fortnite stuff was quite popular. But then also there was the FGC stuff that was going on.
Mhm.
By all reports, that was packed.
Yep.
So like they had a little upstairs section in, I think it was Melbourne Arena.
Yep.
And that was going off. Apparently, I was unable to actually go and witness it myself, but by all reports, yeah, it was really good.
I saw it. The Couch Warriors had that set up there,
Yeah.
right next to the StarCraft, which I think MJ was running
Yeah.
as well. So
I heard that
lots of
ran
stuff.
well behind time too.
I didn't
Not sure.
get enough time to get up there. I was working too hard with Mr. Danny
That's
Kin
a
himself.
shit call, Jim. you know you're going to hear about that.
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
waiting.
So
I just
waiting.
disregarded it.
Also, I just want to point out one thing. We get 2 big name Overwatch teams down under
One.
One and
Oh.
one OPL.
and 1 OPL team.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, what?
One
LCS.
LCS team.
That's not even the same game. So 1 Overwatch team
Yeah. Yeah.
from another country, from
Correct.
NA.
Yeah.
Are they good?
Yeah, they're a pro league team. So Overwatch has their like
How
city
good are they?
based.
I don't give a shit. How good are they?
I'd say
Trash game.
mid tier.
All right.
I guess.
Here's
I'm
our
not- I'm
CS
not
expert
actually
on the
on
desk.
list
Is this
for sure,
like
yeah.
okay? So I'm just getting the gauge of things right. So mid tier, and is the NA league for Overwatch considered good?
It's a global league.
Overwatch League.
Okay,
it's
so that's
London,
like people.
it's like the
cool, yeah.
cities,
All right,
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
a worldwide league. We got the sixth best team down under, and we do show matches.
Yeah, look, they didn't just do any kind of show matches either. Unfortunately, instead of it being, say, like a local team, let's just say it was Order who won Overwatch contenders here in Australia. They then split Order up with 3 players
Yeah, it was
from...
pugs show matches.
So
Yeah.
did you say order up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Continue.
So we have Overwatch League in Australia. I know that much because good
We've got
friends,
contenders,
good
yeah.
friends
Yeah,
commentate that. And I guess if you win in Australia, you don't go overseas, do you?
No, but we do have a lot of our
You
talent
did.
and coaches and stuff get opportunities into like the
Talent and coaches. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
They did have an international opportunity to go to the contenders finals, which I think was in China potentially last year.
Yeah.
And then Auto got knocked out. I think like 2-0 or 4-0, whatever the score is in Overwatch. 4-0, 4-0, didn't win a map. And then they lost their spot.
Classic. Okay, so
So-
anyway, so here's our opportunity for vengeance. Here's our opportunity to put our name on the map again.
Yeah.
And they do show matches. I can't believe that. That upsets
Well-
me. I would much rather like. Do you remember Crown when like Cloud9
What it was,
and
though.
Virtus Pro came down here and put their neck on the line?
Yeah.
Yep. And then got knocked out.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It was like that is giving people what they want. Like people want to see us.
Of course,
Versus
but
America.
Blizzard, by all reports, and this is just what I'm hearing,
Oh, I wouldn't go there.
Blizzard weren't interested in having a show match. You don't want me to go there? I mean, I'm going to go there.
There's better ways of going there, but you're going to go there that
I'll
way.
go there. I'll go there direct.
A
Right.
storm is coming.
Yeah.
By all reports, Blizzard were in a situation where they didn't want one of two things to happen. Right. So if we did have a match where it was
Oh.
Washington versus Order,
Oh no, don't say it. I'm not silly. I think I know where that's going.
you know
Tell
where
me,
it's going.
You know. Is that for real?
For real. So if Order had beaten Washington, that was going to be bad PR for the World League spot. Yeah, for that team.
Oh my God.
Vice versa is if Washington had beaten Order and was, it wasn't close or anything like that.
Business
They
as
were
usual, carry on.
concerned. They were concerned about Order being, or the region becoming a bit of a meme in the whole scheme. Of
Our
Overwatch.
region?
Yeah.
That's
We
a
already
bit,
are a meme, mate. We went 0-4.
it's a bit of a cotton wool situation.
So, but I mean, I don't know how true this is. This is just what I've been
I
told.
hope. I that's what I thought it would be, and I hope it's not that because that is ridiculous. Like,
But that apparently, so in an attempt to control any kind of damage either way, they've done this pug style.
And the other thing behind the scenes was both the OPL and contenders were clean sweeps to one team.
Yes.
The winners. It
Yeah.
was, I think it was like 4-0 to Order over, who did they play? It was
Mind Freak.
Mind Freak.
Yeah.
And then in the OPL, Mammoth 3-0'd or
3-0'd,
3-0'd Chiefs. That's
yeah.
right. I was trying to pay attention. I wasn't in that arena that
There was
much.
just a lot of esports to take in.
Yeah, it was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
basically, what you're lamenting here, Ian, is the fact that there is an opportunity to not only just it really isn't to showcase OC esports because that's what everyone's turning up for. It's an opportunity to further.
yeah,
OC
build a
esports.
rivalry as well. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
True.
I mean, someone
yeah.
made the point. You know how we have like Premier League teams in the soccer?
Yeah.
Come to Australia. It's not as if we ever go, all right,
Nah,
guys.
man, we're gonna have friendlies.
half of you are on this team. Half
Yeah.
of you. All right, two captains. Start picking away. You know what I
Schoolyard
mean? Like,
pick.
yeah.
I'll
So-
take Ronaldo. I'll take Ronaldo.
That's upsetting.
So like that, I guess from a sporting point of view,
Yeah.
it's a little bit.
From a traditional sport point of view, it sounds chicken shit.
Well, do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like the rugby style tournaments where they used to have like the Barbarians sides where it was, a team and they'd all wear different jerseys and they were made up of like different local teams versus a touring side. So you'd have, for example, like the Wallabies versus the Barbarians from like New Zealand.
Oh yeah,
And it'd just be all the New
Right.
It'd
Zealand
be like the
Super
All
Rugby
Stars
teams.
versus one team.
Yeah.
Like Team Australia.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Well,
like
they did that in Gaelic football.
the British
right?
Lions, for example, are actually an amalgamation of like all those
Yeah,
teams
but that's
coming
different,
into
right?
it.
These
It is
guys
different.
verse each other all the time. This is a good
But-
opportunity for Australia versus America, like whatever.
It's a good opportunity. I think it's a missed opportunity to build some rivalry. I
No,
actually think I agree
But
with that.
instead, what we're going to do from now on, also any tournament that's at MEO, no losers anymore. No such thing as a loser. Everyone gets a prize. You all win
Unless
for
of
being
course,
there.
there's no room for you to participate.
And even if that was the message on the weekend, I just want to say I thought that MEO was quite successful in just, spreading it, spreading the love for esports, which is you.
Oh, you
Stop
did it.
it.
You did it,
I
man.
didn't finish my sentence properly. That's my bad. But
Don't know. That's Ian's bad. This fucking-
we've lost
laughing
Ian for
at
the
it.
rest of the podcast. He's gone.
You can't do that to me, dog. They did a great job of spreading it, dude.
So let's try and bring this back.
This
around,
man's
right?
been to like some betting stores on the weekend.
MEO was great.
That's where his
Me and
head's
Mac
at.
both loved it.
Yeah.
Caught up with a lot of different people,
Yeah.
which was good, as you normally do at these sorts of events. A big part of it is the social side of it. Esports there was great. I mean, obviously, there was a couple of one-sided matches for the big titles with Overwatch and League of Legends, but the Rainbow Six was really close. Some of the other stuff and the activations happening around were really good.
Yeah.
There was quite large queues for people to test play Borderlands 3
Bet
and
the
things
coffee
like
was
that.
trash, though,
So the coffee was actually
Yeah.
good, but
Burnt it. I bet they burnt it.
Yeah.
Too hot?
no, the coffee was fine.
Just kidding. It's Melbourne, remember? Everyone's like, oh, la-di-da, coffee.
Oh, no, we're going to spark that
At least
debate.
at least they're not ordering piccolos.
I just had instant coffee all weekend working downstairs, so I didn't even get to
Oh,
try
no.
it.
You're a
I don't
real
know.
man.
I'm not sure if that's a flex or not. Working
That's-
downstairs.
that's-
I
Jimmy
can
Barnes.
drink instant coffee.
That's
I haven't been
working
able to
class.
drink instant coffee since student days.
All I
It's
drink is instant coffee.
Oh,
I don't
it's
have
instant
the money for
gratification,
the other
isn't it?
stuff.
It's working class man up in here.
And also,
Mr.
before we
Blend
move on,
43.
before we go into a million different tangents again, I think the
This sentence is going to need major finishing.
Yeah, the pros. Go for it, cuz. Take off.
Prospectus.
the expected amount of people to turn up would have, I think it was like 14 to 15,000.
What happened to the word
Ended up-
pros?
I was going to say perspective,
Oh, okay.
and then I didn't. I changed it because you made
ruined
me
it,
feel
yeah.
like an idiot.
Ignore
job.
him, Mac. I've got you, bro.
All right,
Oh,
thanks.
Right,
I'm in
right.
between, there's the devil on this side, the angel on this side. It's lovely. Anyway, it was a success. They beat the expected numbers by a couple of thousand.
Okay, so they overshot their projections, which is good,
Yeah,
which is always
yeah,
good.
yeah.
It's good to see that there's a desire for that sort of event as well, because it was always a question of whether or not, and this is probably a decision a lot of people would have had to have made, is it's sort of wedged in that period of time where people maybe have to make a choice. If you're from interstate, do I go to MEO? Do I go to PAX?
Yeah.
Because obviously PAX has taken on a bit more of an esports flavour. They've got the
Yep.
and traditionally have had the Rainbow Six
Twitch
events
as
there
well.
as well, plus
Yeah.
Twitch.
Yeah.
And everyone on the esports salary can only really afford to go to one of them.
Well, it's interesting.
Unless of course,
interesting.
Unless they're working.
unless you shield hard.
It's interesting you mentioned that because that's something I don't know if you noticed that too, Mac. There were, I mean, usually when we go to these events, guys, we've been to quite a few over our time. There's sort of you're a big crew of people within esports that you get used to seeing there. This one for me probably had less people that I knew. Still a lot of people that I knew, but less.
More of
As
the
in-
new guard, less of the old
Yeah,
guard.
probably more of the new guard and less of the old guard. But then a lot of the old guard, so to speak, are telling me, yeah, I'll see you at PAX, right? PAX is what they're going to go to. But for MEO still to pull, break their number record and pull in more than they even expected, with that also being the case, I mean, you guys went there.
No, we were the old guard.
Yeah.
Don't
And
forget.
there was a few other people that weren't there.
No one reached out to us.
To be
poor
fair, I
Ian.
was on a different broadcast that weekend.
You were too.
I was
But-
at sim racing.
Do you
Just
wanna finish
no,
the
I'm
smoke,
trying to
or-
steer the conversation
Yeah.
back to keep going.
Yeah. So what you said, what you highlighted there about obviously the two Melbourne events, they're also somewhat close to each other, both towards the end of the year. Kind of rings true. And I'd be curious to see now if we have a huge turnout for PAX. I think we will. PAX
is-
caters
yeah.
for many different things outside of just esports, whereas the Melbourne Esports Open was very much about the esports and the gaming.
Was there
as a
cosplay
primary.
at MEO?
Yeah, there was some cosplayers. There's obviously a lot more cosplayers at PAX, but there were some cosplayers.
I
running
think
around.
it's because PAX has a broader cultural appeal.
Yeah.
Than
Penny Arcade
MEO.
Expo.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So it's very much about pop culture. Plus, there's a range of different activities. I think it's always been a case of PAX having esports at PAX rather than a dedicated event for esports.
Yeah.
That's what PAX is not.
Yeah.
Whereas that is exactly what MEO is. So good to see, obviously, that growing. And I thought you were going to go into like a bit of a debate about the home of esports after talking about coffee. For the record, Lidcombe is the home of esports.
Yep.
Which
Agreed.
is a dodgy suburb in West Sydney.
It
Out
hosted
of
the
West
Sydney
Sydney.
2000 Olympics.
All right, well, let me
I've only had my thing stolen once. All right.
We were very lucky, I reckon.
Let me ask
when
you
we were
though.
in
We
Lidcombe.
didn't even lock our
Yeah.
front door.
with obviously, Lidcombe, home of esports. Bit of a joke for listeners out there. There is a huge
It's not
amount
a
of
joke.
people who work in esports, whether they be ESL or otherwise, that live around that area, right?
Okay,
so we've
ESL,
just
not
doxed,
Intel. Okay.
we've just doxed a heap of people, but that's fine.
Saying they live
yeah.
in rough
I had to
suburbs.
Yeah.
With white
Right.
vans
But-
in the driveway.
we can all agree here. We spoke about this beforehand as well. That Sydney's still the home of esports, right? It's where you got to come if you want to
Didn't know there was an
Propel-
IEM Melbourne.
propel your career. Now, let me ask you this though: if you could choose which city
Melbourne.
would be the home of
Oh,
esports.
Perth, actually.
If you could choose which city.
Brisbane home of
Interesting to bring that up
esports.
because I'd probably back you in on
Yeah.
that. Let's go. Nah, but if you could pick Jim, where would you pick? Would you pick Sydney or would you pick?
You're always
Melbourne?
going to have a hometown bias, right?
Yeah.
Like for
Don't
me,
say it. Are you actually?
Ipswich. No.
There's no way you could back that up. Like,
Hey, we're
Brisbane.
the first town in Queensland. We were supposed to be the capital before Brisbane robbed us.
Yeah.
All the way back in like 1886.
Yeah, say it.
Yeah. Nice,
It's on
nice.
record. Like, let's go.
Actually, no, it was much earlier than that.
So
So
you actually going
Melbourne-
to say you think Brisbane should be the home? You think it could
No,
be?
it's always that hometown bias. But in all honesty, if you're going to pick a metro district for it, I think it's tough to choose. Like if you were to just both cities starting at square one, no infrastructure previously, no game developers basing themselves anywhere. I think Melbourne's got like a better the city overall. Like if I was just
That's what
purely going to choose based on livability of the city,
Yeah. That's my
I
argument.
would choose Melbourne.
You look at any city in Australia, Melbourne tops every chart in terms of most livable. But closely behind it is Sydney.
I saw a really wild one today that rated Melbourne number 2
Yes.
and Sydney 3.
Yes.
Who the hell are they surveyed
I
in
don't
Sydney?
know. No, do you know what it is?
Who was number one?
Their survey.
What was number
I don't
one?
know.
I know this.
Probably Brussels or something.
Singapore?
Wait, is this in Australia? Or-
No, it's
Nah,
like one of those travel.
international.
Ah, okay.
Anyway, so
Right.
We don't have any credible
I don't
sources
think it
on
is
that one.
Singapore. It could be Singapore. I'm not sure. It's something like that.
But you're Melbourne though, right?
No, hear me out, dog. Hear me out. So basically,
Hear me-
Melbourne is the most livable city.
It is.
I've been to Melbourne so many times, and I've gotten on, like, I live there. Like, it's like I don't know where I am, but then after a couple of days, I know the whole city. I know how to get around. I know how to use trams, trains, planes, automobiles, everything. Go to pubs. I know where the good ones are. I know where the sneaky ones are. Coffee, Fed Square, like all the restaurants around there as well. So in that regard, great city, right? But the reason why everyone hates Sydney is because we're so spread out.
Yeah.
Right? If you live in Bondi, you live in Coogee, you live in the North Beaches, you live anywhere.
Coogee.
Yeah, whatever, mate. I don't care.
Is
If
from
you, as long as you're not
around
out,
here.
Yeah.
as long as you're not out in Wagga Wagga, like, then
Shout out to Matty B.
yeah. So like, what I'm saying is, we all live out here, and we're like, oh, Sydney's so trash place to live. It's because when we go to Melbourne, we live in the heart of Melbourne, and anyone you know, if you go over visit them, they live in the South Yarra or something very close. And in Sydney, we're spread out. We're in Lidcombe, we're in Auburn, we're
The
in
purple patch of NBN
we're out of West Sydney, where it's affordable living.
on an esports wage.
If you guys were to go live in the city for a week, I think you would find Sydney is just as good.
Just as good.
Just as good.
So what you're saying is like when the medicine wears off,
Yeah.
and you actually have to live in that city,
Oh.
and you're comparing similar conditions like for like.
Yeah.
So when you stay in Melbourne and you're from out of town,
Yep.
you stay at an inner city location that is central to where you need to be.
Yeah.
You've got all the conveniences.
Yeah.
You're not paying like that inflated price
everything
over the course
is
of the
everything
year.
is a local haunt. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's great. Melbourne is great when you go over there and it's like that. I think Sydney would be like that as well if you were an outsider. You wouldn't have to drive around the city. We don't have to drive anywhere because you live in the city.
And
all
it's
this
great.
stuff.
Everyone's in bed by 12 o'clock because the government doesn't allow
That's
anyone.
the only. That's the
outside.
only downside to Sydney.
So you're Melbourne.
I'm Perth. Yeah, we're as far away from New Zealand as possible, so they can't come and steal our AWPers that underperform. Then I'm over in Perth. I've got a good ping to Asia,
Yeah.
so I can jump on World of Tanks and have a great time. I mean, you can scrim them as well. If
But
you
what
want in
about
CS:GO,
the stabbings in LAN cafes over there?
No, that was like 17 years ago, 16 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
What about you, Mac? Melbourne,
I'm
Sydney.
thinking Melbourne, but then I'd also go to Brizzy if they fix their tap water.
What do you mean?
Has it got
We
fluoride?
got fantastic smiles.
It
in
tastes
Brisbane.
like dirt.
Oh, sending the frog is gay.
I will. If you want to look at logistics of Sydney from just like flights and stuff, it's like Brisbane to Sydney, Melbourne to Sydney.
Exactly.
You're looking at an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's real easy to get there.
Central.
If you were centralized up in let's say Brisbane was the home, you've
3
got
hours.
got longer flights from Melbourne
Oh,
and
no
things
one
like
from
that.
Perth is coming.
Yeah, Perth flights pretty
Can't
decent
catch a
to,
tailwind.
to Brisbane. But I to this question would pick Melbourne. Obviously, I'd pick Perth.
Oh, I love no one said Adelaide.
Perth, no.
Got all
Sorry,
Barossa
LA
Valley.
Come on,
there.
mate. It's a city of churches. What do you think happens
But,
in
might-
esports?
Might as well
Nothing
be
but sin.
Wollongong House,
Sin.
home of esports, if it's going to be Adelaide. Wollongong's so much better
One
than
like
Adelaide.
for one prayer.
Right. All right. Well, that was my question, Jim. Please, next topic.
Okay, so that was your input.
Yeah.
Excellent. We're going to talk. We've obviously talked a little bit about recent events. I want to quickly touch on this one as well. Good to see Extremesland returning
Yes.
back to OCE. This time, it's even better because the top 2 teams will actually get a spot at the main tournament in Shanghai. So the top 2 teams from OCE at the, I believe, a LAN event that has been announced for the 5th of October, the top 2 teams from that are going straight to the finals.
Yep, that's good.
That's awesome. That's awesome pathway of opportunity.
Mhm.
I think it's super important that events like this also occur. It amalgamates OCE into Asia. It's a huge pathway opportunity. Obviously being hosted on Instafrag as well. Ian,
Yep.
you want to quickly
Well,
touch on that?
Okay.
Oh, really?
As soon as the thing is, as soon as Extremesland reached out to me again, I was like, yes, we have to have it again because I think we did a really fantastic job last year, and for them to come back again shows that we did a great job. Whole different crew this year though, but in terms of saying that, what we're offering is a free entry to any player that wants to get their hands on competitive Counter-Strike, and they'll be coming up against the best.
Is that the one we played in last year?
Yeah, I think we actually got a casting crew together. We had a
Yes.
we got smacked around
I
the
remember
first.
Are we doing
first
it again?
instant.
I got a golden
We
deagle.
could.
I can't.
Yeah, you
obviously.
can't. You can't. There's a conflict there.
We actually conked out against MC
Yeah, we did. We came out against MC.
Esports rather
Yeah,
than
that
MC.
was
God Observer.
hilarious. But I think the important part is, and we did our part last year to support it.
Yeah.
It's important that the region as a whole gets behind this.
This is exactly what we talked about in the other podcast.
Correct.
So that's what Instafrag wants to be. That's what I want Instafrag to be. An entry-level grassroots, like get your friends together, play socially in these tournaments. You might do good. You might be at the next star. You never know. Give it a shot.
Got nothing to lose as well. Free entry.
Yep.
Into that competition. I think it's really good that they've returned. And I think with 2 spots on offer, it needs to be supported.
Yep.
Because
This is the qualifier for the local LAN. So if you qualify, if you make I think is it the top 8 that goes to LAN?
so with this one, it's the top 8 that goes to the closed qualifier.
Yeah, the closed qualifier.
So they're going to invite 4 teams directly to the closed qualifier on
as
Sunday.
you normally do, as
Open
you'd
qual,
expect. Yeah.
4 spots. Of that, 2 teams.
So yeah,
For the closed qualifier, 2 teams will then go to the LAN where they've already invited another 2 teams.
Mhm.
And then 2 teams from that 4 teams at LAN, well, actually, 2 of them will go
Straight
to
across.
the Shanghai finals, which
Yeah.
is it's pretty cool.
Are they going to play a grand final for seeding, or is it? Just
I
sort of
believe
like
they
two-
are. Yeah, they are
Okay.
going to play it for seeding. But I mean, the fact that they're offering that
But
as a
the other
pathway,
thing is, in
Awesome.
terms of what I talked about in the other podcast as well, is if you're not supporting Oz Counter-Strike, you're the enemy. So jump on and make a team at any cost. Jump
Well,
in,
and-
put numbers into this qualifier
At no cost.
at no cost,
yeah.
except a good time.
And I mean, on that sentiment rings true for all esports here in Australia. Support your local and grassroots esports.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I even saw there was another tournament running. It was the Omen Challenge.
Yeah, that's right. That
Was guys, that's woeful. There was only a few teams signed up for that.
Yeah.
There's only 15 teams.
that's the
signed
thing
up
where
for
if
it.
you win, you go across to Sweden and
there was
boot camp and all
there was
that.
I think they've run a different pathway, but
Yeah.
again they're running it on a similar platform. But the fact that only 15 teams have signed up for that, it's a $50,000 tournament, guys.
Yeah.
Get your act together. It's free entry.
Yeah.
Like you complain that there's
What else are you doing?
no opportunities.
Yeah.
Or the opportunities are drying up.
How
This is
how
why.
well advertised was this event?
I've seen it run a few times on socials.
I
Okay.
didn't see anything about it until
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah,
So.
Mac me either. That's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
I haven't seen or heard anything about that, and that could just be me not following socials well enough, which can sometimes happen. But
You mean you've been playing too much World of Warcraft?
That is
Potentially.
exactly what we mean.
The tides of
Potential- yeah,
darkness
that's-
are upon
yeah,
us.
Mac, right out. But I'd based on the fact that I know about it, I'd put an argument out there going, no, they didn't advertise it well enough.
Yeah, it's potential.
Yeah, but by the same token, you hear about it, you get on board with that.
Yep.
So
Of
this
course,
is
yeah.
this is. I don't think we're
15
gonna.
teams, 5 people a team. That's enough people to spread the word, I reckon.
Yeah.
You should be telling everyone. Jump
Nah,
on.
you wouldn't be telling anyone. If you knew that not many people knew about it, you'd be
Well,
doing
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
Mood Juice, if an old school Counter-Strike CSGO player.
He still
Yeah.
plays.
yeah.
He's in Pillies.
Yeah,
Oh, he
not,
wasn't
not
Pillies.
everyone would know
Anyway.
who he is, right?
Okay.
But back in the day, when we were qualifying for Face It and we went over to London, We won the online qualifier. We'll go off to London, and then it's like day 2 or something. Moojus rocks up, and we're like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, I won the ladder. There was like a face it ladder, like FPL kind of thing, and if the top 2 guys or something got tickets to the final in London."
Cool.
We just didn't tell a soul about it. And just went in and just seal clubbed all these noobs because no pro players knew about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Next minute, he's in London with
Yeah,
us.
he gets a trip to London.
Okay, that's a bit cheeky.
In
but
the face.
this is entirely different.
Anyway, entirely different. Sorry, tangent. Yeah, my bad.
Entirely different in that sense. So important to support those sort of events. Keep an eye out for them as well. If you notice an event, like the Omen Challenge or even Extremes Land, just
RT it.
Get it on. And I think actually that takes me to a different tangent, which was like a real lack of, I guess, a central place for Counter-Strike, because this is where it's a little bit fragmented. We won't touch on that now, but I think that's a clear.
That's almost
clear
a whole
evidence.
episode on its own.
Yeah, that's a clear evidence of a problem where that the community has been so fragmented, and Twitter's obviously become so prolific.
Twitter is
has replaced the forums.
Got frag.
It's replaced forums
of CS.
Yeah, Twitter
isn't it really?
I feel like it's definitely replaced forums. That's where even like the kids right at the bottom in like the CGA level, they're all getting Twitter now.
Do you know why? It's because you can say dumb stuff and not get banned.
Honestly, yeah, that's true. There's no that's true.
I think there was a ban on LPL the other day for someone that said something, and I think it was only like a 2 or 3 day ban. But
yeah, but basically there's no moderation on Twitter, so the trolls can go at it, right?
Yeah.
But the amateurs getting Twitter accounts, that's good. That's what we want. But yeah, definitely the centralized location for information. It can't be HLTV. They can't do every single tournament in every region. So I think it's time we talked about maybe getting something for Australia, but
that'll be another episode.
That is a really good point, though. And for listeners out there who follow this podcast but may want to get more of an insight, or have people they know, family members and stuff that are trying to crack into the scene, make yourself a Twitter. 100% make yourself a Twitter. Yeah. It is for not just CSGO, but for all esports titles, in particular here in Australia. I mean, it's where we get a lot of our information of what's going on, is, following the right people in your Twitter feed. And
yeah, all those esports mums out there on Twitter, get your kids on Twitter.
It's not even that. So like mum and dad, I don't really call them as much as I probably should, but for them to follow what I'm doing, they started using Twitter, and dad made a handle, and it's at tastes like chicken.
Oh god, he's in trouble now.
Tastes like chicken.
And I was looking at it in the picture, and the picture was like a picture of something very politically incorrect, and I was just thinking, this looks like it could be dad, only because there was one person being followed with 0 followers, and I was like, this can't be a coincidence. And then I randomly said to him one day at lunch, I was like, did you make a Twitter to follow me? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, are you tastes like chicken? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, what have you done? What are you doing to me?
So this is where you got your sense of humor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Had to grow up with him.
Yeah.
Love him.
Had to grow up with him.
Yeah.
But it's true, though. What Max says is true. My parents have a Twitter account.
Yeah, they follow me.
I'm not going to dox them.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm not going to say
shout
what
them
it
out,
was.
dog.
No. It's actually not hard to find. But my parents have a Twitter account, and
Thank
that's how
God.
they follow what's going on and what am I, what am I doing, and events that are on and things like that. So,
Mine don't.
No.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Do they know how to use Twitter?
Oh, look, I don't think Mum would, because funny story, back in the day where we were kids, you'd sneak onto the PC, middle of the night, you'd boot her up,
There
and
was
then
no such thing.
your old 56k V92 motor
Put
would
like
sound
2
like
pillows over the top of it,
it
like
was screaming the house down, and you were trying to shut up.
sneezing to cover the noises.
Yeah. Except it went for 30 seconds. So this is the longest sneeze every night. But the point being was Mum didn't know how to get me off the computer or turn it off. So she proceeded to basically start ripping cords out the back.
Oh no.
Everything but the power cord. So
it was at the bottom.
every cord was ripped out the back but the power cord. Anyway, needless to say, I don't think Twitter's her forte, or will it be?
Absolute tangent, but in terms of dial-up, the phone thing where it was a phone call basically.
I hated my aunt. She rang at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
Every time.
Yeah.
People would call home phones and kick you off, and you'd be like, somebody has better have died.
Yeah.
I am the middle of who calls people? But yeah, basically that made me think of that. And pulling cables. Like my parents had a phone in their bedroom for emergencies.
Yeah.
So if the phone rang at like 5 a.m., they could just pick it up.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking now, like, why didn't they just pick up the phone when they wanted me to get off the computer late at night? They could have just done that. But instead, run up the hallway, yell at me, "You've got school tomorrow."
But now they're on Twitter, so they've
Yeah,
worked
that's
something out.
Yeah. Shout out to my dad. Throw him a 3 O's.
With 3 O's. Okay. Anyway, we'll digress a little bit, but basically, yeah, shout out to all the Twitter mums out there. Obviously, a lot of support goes on behind the scenes that we appreciate, and we'll push the scene forward. But speaking of the pathways of opportunity, ESL have announced the Pro Tour, or should I say the MTG Tour, because it is finally the coming together of two brands that sit underneath the Modern Times Group, which are both ESL and DreamHack. So finally, they have actually got their ducks in order. When I say finally, it's like, it's interesting that one holding
It's
group
like they
would
resisted
have
it for so long.
two brands
Yep.
that were at one point competitors. Now, this is actually really similar for a work situation for me. I used to work in the Super Retail Group. They bought two brands, Amart Sports and Rebel Sport. Essentially, they sold the same stuff. They were two sporting retail stores, but they kept both brands
Yes.
until they eventually decided that it was too different. They had different brand profiles. One was aimed at value proposition. One was aimed at like the top end athlete. It was bang on an analogy for ESL and DreamHack. DreamHack, you had your localized. It was LAN. It was the pathway. DreamHack were built in big halls.
Yeah.
And you'd have a big LAN, and then you'd have the finals on the back of that. So you had to play your way through. So very grassroots, very community, very much a value proposition. Whereas ESL was aimed at like the elite athlete, the top of the top.
That's
your
where
best
I was
teams.
focused, to be honest.
And this is interesting now that they've decided to align the two in terms of pathway. Now, they haven't actually had a lot of time. No, they aren't, but they're keeping the two of them, and they're actually amalgamating them
They're just making
into
a pro
one tour.
circuit.
They're making a circuit,
Yeah,
correct.
I
So
like it. I like it.
I like it.
I think it's the right step forward in terms of scheduling and calendars for a long time.
Yeah.
It's been an issue. Now, they've announced that basically over the course of 2020, they will have 20 different Counter-Strike dates.
Yeah.
Or 20 different tour dates. So a lot of this is obviously
That's like one
Counter-Strike
every
focused.
2 weeks.
And it's pretty hectic.
Yeah.
Now, for me, it's basically DreamHack were doing an event a month anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there was already 12 there.
Yep.
ESL, 8 events on their behalf. But this is going to be a crazy calendar because there's also an opportunity in there for the national leagues, think ANZ championships, to have a pathway to gain tour points to potentially even propel yourself onto that main circuit.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So I'm actually really keen to see where it actually goes. There hasn't been a lot of details released other than the fact there's 20 tournaments, $5 million prize pool, 5 continents. They've released a bunch of dates around challenger events and master events. And basically there's a proposition of, correct use of the word, tour rankings as well. I looked directly at you and I said that.
I
too,
said
mate.
perspective. All right?
No, you said pros.
Yeah, okay. Open to interpretation.
He doesn't want to be prosecuted.
Yeah.
Okay. But these challenger, basically the challenger tournaments are events like your MDL Land, your DreamHack Opens, and I said the national championships, and then your master events are like your DreamHack Masters and also your IEMs or your ESL ones. And
I don't think, but
tournaments
I
like
think
that.
what will happen is you'll get this delineation, right, where you'll have like the pro teams going to the IEMs and the ESL one colognes, and then you'll have like that second tier going to the challengers, right?
Well, I see it being like they'll still do the same things what they've always done. Where if you're on, they'll make a leaderboard and you'll get assigned points throughout the tour, depending on how you go. And if you're up towards the top, you'll probably just get the invites to all of the big ones anyway.
Yeah.
But then they'll use the national championships, the DreamHack Opens, and MDL to filter in the new teams. So, say MDL in Australia, it's different to MDL everywhere else. Where at the end of MDL,
Unusual.
if you settle down,
Just saying we get fucked over all the time. So
Yeah, it's
Well,
interesting.
we also
that,
deserve it in a
that
way.
pathway doesn't
But
actually align.
it's
as it should.
kind of bad, but it's also great because where MDL goes overseas, especially like in NA and stuff, you go to Pro League after you get like go to the quals for Pro League and you qualify for Pro League.
Yeah,
Over
MDL
here-
League is supposed to be the tier underneath
Yeah,
Pro League.
but over here, teams are free to qual for Pro League or to play MDL. Like it's two different leagues over here.
No, see, no, that's not quite right. So
MDL doesn't get you overseas.
No, MDL fed into the Pro League last time.
Yeah.
For Australia?
Yeah, for Australia.
Yeah.
So I know
But
this.
do they get 2 bites of the cherry? Is
But
what
yeah,
you're saying.
they get so
Potentially.
Greyhound,
Yeah.
who would be the favourites in Australia at the moment, happy to play Pro League. They get the invite to the Pro League anyway, but then they can still play MDL. They don't get told you can't play MDL.
There was a qualifying system where the teams got picked from MDL. So unless you were like top of MDL, the reason I bring this up is I had a lot of concerns. So obviously when I was with Avant still, that Avant roster, because we changed Core 3, we only kept Core 2, we lost our MDL spot. We were unable to participate in the promotion relegation tournament because they do have a spot open in that for teams they consider to be top 8 quality.
Yep.
So you don't actually have to play through open. Yep. Now, we were over at the minor for that. Lots of frantic emails around the Pro League spot and what would happen as the former sort of Core 3 ended up stopped playing. They sort of split up. Now, the concern was, our main concern was because we're not in MDL, would we still be able to achieve a Pro League spot? Now, this time around, I don't think MDL, but it wasn't confirmed. The admins couldn't confirm one way or the other, but I don't think MDL leads into a Pro League spot. Yeah. However, it did. That was the case last time.
Yeah.
And the teams now, so I think for Avant, they're going to be okay because they have a team that's been over to the minor. The word I got from the admins were...
top 8.
Well, the word I got from the admins was if the team was strong enough, they'd be able to retain the spot.
Yeah,
but it definitely did tie in with MDL at one point, and that was, I thought quite interesting. Something you mentioned,
but there's no clear pathway. That's like up until now, there really hasn't it's not clear.
It's not clear, and I think they're changing it yet again. That's all unconfirmed. One thing I found real interesting when you sort of introduced this sort of new system was tour points. Now, tour points, as soon as you said
tour
that,
rankings.
Did you think
tour
of
rankings,
WCG
tour points, the first thing, I didn't think exactly of WCG, but I thought of something similar. I thought of the COD, Call of Duty thing that they did, right? When they brought out tour points for the different tournaments they had and how that actually, by all reports, kind of destroyed the COD scene here.
Yeah.
So we went from having teams like Tainted, who are now obviously Chiefs, and Mindfreaker, that being sort of their flagship sort of game title and things like that, where these guys really kind of got screwed over because the amount of investment required to hit the certain tournaments outside of just Australia to make sure you had enough points was
I reckon you're on the money,
bad.
and I think that's where we'll get fucked over with these other ones.
I think so as well.
Because what will happen is you've got all these European organizations with just cashed up, and they're just going to be going to all these tournaments, and they're going to get the rankings.
Yep.
Just like when we were in Team Immunity and we beat Cloud9 at Crown Casino Invitational. Crown Invitational. Yep. We were like, yes, we've just beat a top 10 team in the world, maybe top 5, I don't know, or number 8, I don't know.
That lineup was pretty strong.
Yeah, well, it was, but it was in a shit phase when we beat them, so get wrecked. And we were like, okay, so we're gonna propel up the rankings, right? That means we're gonna start getting invited to big tournaments and everything. Some organizations started talking to us, which is half the reason I didn't get any sticker money. But then what happened was, guess what?
What?
Only 2 international teams, so it's not counted as part of the rankings for ESL. So basically, they could have just come and lost, and neither Virtus Pro or Cloud9 would have lost any ranking points. Because you need to have at least 4 international teams at a tournament to get ranking points for ESL.
Did that get sold? Do you think that got sold to them as a reason to come in the first place?
No.
No?
I don't think that. They came because of the money. It was free money for them. They choked, that's all.
Fair enough.
So basically, yeah.
No, so I'm concerned about
I think that's what's going to happen. I think we're going to start, unless we start shipping around and going to these quals as well, or these tournaments as well.
100%.
That's that's the next thing that I want to see from this is some
and it's harder for
direction around how these tour rankings work.
Yeah.
What they actually mean. So if you win a national championship level event, which is like, say, for example, ANZ, does that enter you into like the closed qualifier stage of a DreamHack Challenger event or a Challenger event?
Yeah.
What does it get you and where does it put you?
Well, that's the reason Greyhound played the AUNZ at the start of the year, is because it did offer the 2, I think, slots straight into IEM Sydney. And, so that means Renegades, and then it was Chiefs and Greyhound that were in there as well. And I remember, because I was over in Jakarta when it was one of the days where the call was being played, Order had to play from, I think it was like 8 a.m. our time, and then play, I think it was 2 best-of-3s. No, it might have been 1 best-of-3, and then had a large gap in the middle where they then had to play another best-of-3, and then another best-of-5. So they had this huge day of just like a ridiculous amount of online Counter-Strike.
Mm.
And that was their reason for like, everyone was super
But
tired.
I mean, that's because they had to make a lower bracket run though, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, because who was it?
Yeah, they lost in the first game.
Yeah, they had to lower bracket run.
Was that one of the ones they got knocked down by Paradox?
I don't think they lost. I think they forfeited.
No, they lost. It was pretty sure they lost to Chiefs, didn't they? And then they
Maybe they lost to
that sounds
Chiefs.
right.
This is all superfluous though. Like,
yeah.
But
Yes. But the point what I was trying to make was, it was a injected slot into IEM.
so that was the carrot that was being dangled in front
Yeah,
of these.
and then this season, Greyhound, they're busy doing international stuff, so they're like, we're not going to play.
Yeah, because they figured that they would probably now, as a result, going to the minor, doing relatively well there, and then obviously qualifying for the major, they might start to get some of these invites anyway.
So when you say they're not going to play, you're talking about AUNZ.
Like AUNZ championships
Yes.
this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like Avant almost didn't play as well. They had to make the
Yes.
sacrifices, but there was a very fortunate moment when a team just didn't submit their roster in time and then got moved out.
Yeah.
And then the next team on the list was like, oh, cool, Avant can fill that.
Yeah, because I mean, we were actively messaging admins to see what the options were around the second phase.
Yeah.
We were told that we couldn't play, that we'd missed out. But then, fortunately, when I say we, the Avant, obviously, I'm still, getting used to not saying we, but Avant got told that
Like a terrible
they weren't
Frenchman.
going to play.
we
And then once they the team had pulled out, Avant were called up and signed up in 24 hours and away we
slight
went.
tangent there, Jim. What's the next subject?
On
No, just real briefly before you digress.
ours, it was going to be just quickly touching on a few other recent events.
Okay. But before you do that, Jim and I had a unique thought the other day when we were watching the major, when Renegades.
Sometimes we're just in sync here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, basically, Renegades, they're doing pretty good.
They are.
And this is looking like it could be a good lineup, right? Liaz has hit his stride.
Correct, yeah.
But Jim and I were like having a discussion. When do you think the last time they played in Oz was?
Renegades?
Yeah.
What do you mean by played in Oz? Like just
LAN.
LAN,
LAN in Oz, not IM.
not IM.
Like an actual land.
Like a proper Renegades versus Greyhounds, Renegades versus Order, Renegades versus
I mean,
Chiefs.
they don't.
wouldn't have.
They don't. They come
Oh,
here for the minor.
When
and
was
that's
the
it.
last time they played a LAN in Australia that
In this
wasn't
iteration?
IM?
In this iteration?
Renegades.
Just renegades. In
Renegades.
general.
It would be that one where they versed like Immunity or Chiefs like before I started casting. Before they moved over
What
to LA
year was that?
with chat and stuff. I don't know, 2014,
Let's not name
2015.
any names, okay? But it was Crown Invitational.
What,
Was it- oh, it was a Crown.
2015.
15,
They haven't
okay.
played a local LAN in 4 years. Somebody get your dick out and get them down here.
Because I was going to say,
I don't know how
yeah,
that's
it
gonna
wasn't because I was just recently revisiting ACL,
Yeah.
and ACL Sydney was prior to that, and that,
That
was
was
when
Fox.
they just become Renegades. But
That was that, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
when they just become Renegades.
What was
but
the minor quals? They had to play at Gfinity for the minor quals. It was still online.
but that
It
wasn't
was
LAN.
still online, but
Yeah.
they had
No,
to
yeah,
play.
Laugh out loud.
But that was also one of the only few times I've actually come into Australia and actually played from this region.
What
That
about
was
the
nice.
what about the show match?
That was actually really nice what Gfinity did.
Wasn't
for them.
LAN.
Wasn't it, Jim?
Wasn't it?
What
No.
Gfinity arranged for Renegades. That was good.
Yeah, well, I think it was a good arrangement for both parties there. It's good to see.
What
them
was the
back on-
arrangement? Just so
Just that boot camp, and then obviously come and
You're coming back from overseas. You don't have a home here,
do some content.
Yeah.
right? GFin put their hand up, said, come boot camp at GFin headquarters.
and then made some content.
Yeah.
Bit of promotion for
but
Gfin, bit of
doesn't-
promotion for Renegades.
They didn't have to do that. Same thing as when we went to Face It in London. We had nowhere to boot camp. Face It said, come boot camp in our HQ. Nearly got them DOS. That was back when DOS was a big thing.
That was back when it was,
But-
Skype IPs that were leading.
Right,
We had
yep,
to
yep.
play on a VPN. But it's a nice thing to do, and that's another thing that GFin probably won't get any credit for when people look back supporting esports. But just wanted to say that, and I think
It's a
Renegades...
fickle crowd, Ian.
I think-
Fickle crowd.
I think Renegades need to get back down under, because the teams down here, particularly Greyhounds and Order, could do with versing them.
It actually would
but
help.
What event is there for them down here that doesn't involve them having to play like an online league leading in?
No, any event, mate. It's Renegades. You put them in. No one's going to go, oh, where do they get free entry? It's Renegades. Okay, shut up.
Okay, fair.
Secondly, it's going to do your product wonders. Okay. And we need somebody down here to be the Michael Jordan of Counter-Strike. Just somebody down here to be like, they're the superstars. Look at them, they're living life. Back when they were doing This Is the Renegades, living in the casino before we found out how depressing it was. We need someone down here, just that icon, just to sell it. Because I think it would work, and I just think someone needs to do it. And that's all I'm going to say on the subject. It's been a couple of years. I think it's fair enough.
Okay, I'm gonna circumnavigate one of these topics that we had written down. But speaking of Jordan, selling shoes, is the main game. Order signing with PUMA for their apparel.
That's huge.
I can talk about this. What do you think?
I can talk about this. I've got inside information. That's not inside information anymore. Is that what it is?
It's good.
Can you talk about this, or is it going to be cut out again?
No.
I'll preface this for you if you've got no thoughts.
Yeah.
I think it's good to see the fact that obviously a brand like PUMA doesn't come on board when there's no metrics being present, right? Like Order have done a good job.
Got metrics, it's Order.
Yeah, if they've done a good job of pushing their merch, and I think they've done a good job of also like portraying that streetwear, esports, casual. It's a lifestyle choice brand, and I think that obviously clearly aligns with what PUMA are trying to do. PUMA streetwear brand. If you know anything about the history of PUMA as a brand, they've always seen themselves as like a bit of a forgive the pun, an avant-garde sort of style brand where they'll do things that are a little bit out there. They'll try different things. They've made some of the most whack clothing.
Yes.
And like even some of their partnerships with athletes like Usain Bolt, some of the clothing that they've actually and footwear they put out there is a bit out there.
You definitely have Pumas.
Well, they're proactive, right? If you want to talk about the way they market, I think that's an interesting way to put it.
I worked a long time in sporting retail, and I know their brand story.
Exactly. I was like, I don't know shit about shoe brands, Jim, but if anyone knows brands, it's Jim.
But it's a strong point. I think you're right. I think Puma are the way you term it is a proactive as opposed to reactive.
Yeah.
So you've got companies out there, and if you're doing your market research and you are trying to, lure a company on board to partner with your org, understanding the way that they do things is incredibly important to creating your own pitch. And they are proactive, which is good, which is why you're seeing them in the market early as far as one of these big brands. Champion did something similar in the States.
I was going to do a pop quiz.
Yeah, so Champion did something similar.
Well, they're one of those. They're an interesting brand for me because they're one of those brands that someone sat on for like the last 15 years and gone.
Dunlop of brands.
Well, correct.
Yeah.
Don't need me to spruik the Dunlop KT26s with the Velcro straps.
Definitely don't need you to spruik.
Anyway, shout out to Dunlop as well.
Not just good tires.
Best $30 shoes you'll ever buy from Big W.
Pair of rubber
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Even Goodyear put rubber on shoes with Adidas. But that was another brand collaboration. Anyway, point being, they're one of those brands that have like are really capitalizing on the whole like retro, nostalgia vibe. Yeah. Someone sat on that brand strategically for the last 15 years. Like someone, for example, has done similar with like brands like K-Swiss, with Reebok, with all those retro style brands. They're now bringing them back when they're back in fashion.
Yeah.
So they sat on them, let them do nothing. This is a little bit of like history for
just
you.
Waited till Pat Rafter retired, and then Reebok was bam, we're coming back, baby.
Precisely.
Bigger and better.
Men with ponytails. Let's bring it back.
But yeah, it's all part of the retro revival and whatnot. But Puma, as I said, I think it's a good strategic alignment for them because Order have put a great deal of emphasis on their merch. Obviously, they've got the metrics to back it up to attract a brand like Puma.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to do really well because one of the goals that I always had for esports was seeing esports jersey lines in mainstream.
Do you remember when you saw like the North sponsored by Adidas and it was like looked like a German FIFA jersey? I was like, it's here, baby, finally. Yeah. But then nothing happened for ages. But
a goal is to see esports jerseys on racks.
Yeah.
Obviously Greyhound.
Yeah, Greyhound's done it.
JD Hi-Fi, but like you want to go get the sporting jersey.
Pop quiz.
See on there.
Champion, we talked about them just randomly. I don't know how you come up with these names. Like, must be in sync as well.
Yep.
What esport organization does Champion sponsor?
FaZe, right?
Renegades.
FaZe and Renegades.
Yeah.
Is it Renegades as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
You wouldn't know it, eh? Just says Champion on the back of their jersey.
Okay.
But as Eminem would say, when it comes to order, you're talking about getting your numbers right and everything. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you put your stats out there, they're out there. And once they heard from you, they've heard from you. And they don't want to hear from you again.
Yeah. It's either get better stats or just that's the conversation.
So this PUMA deal is, Baal reports, is a good deal. It's not just clothing as well. There's some sort of other elements to it as well, which is where we yet to be seen, which is good.
As I said, like lifestyle brand.
Coming
Merging
together.
the two, good strategic alignment.
Now, I didn't know about the PUMA thing happening until it happened, which is kind of interesting for me. I like to think I got my finger on the pulse. However, it has strengthened something else that I've heard about, and I expect we'll see in the next 3 to 6 months.
To be honest, PUMA was sniffing a while. Like, I've been looking at esports for a while.
They're not the only one, though.
Some might say they were stalking their prey.
Potentially in the long grass.
I might say that.
But they've been looking for a while. Obviously, I've got connections in sporting retail circles still.
Yeah.
And very much was on their radar.
Well, there's another brand, and we mentioned just before that I've heard are about to make their move in Australia, and that's Adidas. So Adidas are...
Well, they just sponsored that red, blue-haired idiot. What's his name?
Ninja.
Yeah, so Adidas have obviously, there was that North Adidas thing. I'm just going to try and get past that.
He's out of touch.
North one was interesting for me because that was North are an extension of FC Copenhagen, which
obviously. So, but I'm hearing that Adidas are in the market here in Australia, and I expect to see that. Happen in sort of the next 3 to 6 months.
Are you announcing an Esports Social Club exclusive?
I hope so.
Well, I mean, I feel like
we're getting
I don't like to do brands like that don't pay for it, obviously. But
that's iconic of you. Yeah.
There's an opportunity here for a sporting goods company to come on and fix this. So go ahead, welcome.
Well, I mean, I'd love, man, yeah, absolutely.
All day I dream about sportswear.
Some Esports Social Club Ultra Boost. Is that what we're talking about here?
I'm not giving away anything for free, but
look, no, I'm hearing they're in the market. I'm hearing there should be an announcement in the next 3 to 6 months. I've obviously been around the market and looking for about the last 6 to 12.
It's going to be a LOL team.
It most likely will be a LOL team.
Yeah, they get everything.
Hearing rumbles at potentially Chiefs, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, you got the 3 stripes in the shield, all that sort of stuff.
Well, Chiefs did just release like the new merch as well with the 3 stripes on the arms, so
great
that could
stuff.
tie in pretty nicely.
Yeah, you don't genuinely jump the gun though, because that's Adidas's IP, and you don't really want to annoy them before you launch a brand deal.
We already have your logo. Look how good it looks.
Are we talking like that Glen Ridge Sailor Century style Tony Barlow menswear arrangement? Is that what we're after?
Oh, well, if you want to see us cracking something like,
Polo is back in, boys.
Yeah.
Polo is
pointing
back in.
at the image of us that is taken a couple hundred years ago.
No, a couple weekends ago, actually.
Yeah, well, that's the one. Playing polo.
Yeah. No, it's with your best attire.
High pants.
Cool deal. I think that means good things because it means that it's interesting for me. OCE or Oceania has always been a bit of a test region for a lot of brands. They want to try different things, basically because they see us as like a smaller America.
Demographic, yeah. The same token, though, we have a smaller marketing budget because we're such a tiny place.
Yeah.
And we're overlooked constantly.
But you can do different things in Oceania, and it's like, it's just a regional thing.
Yeah.
If it works, they do it elsewhere.
If you don't want to get too famous doing something, but you want to help, then this is the place to come.
Correct.
If you want to get super famous for doing something, that also can happen here as well.
Correct.
Look at when the Bombers got on TV in the middle of an AFL game.
Oh my God,
that was
interesting. That was an unmitigated disaster.
It was, but they had an opportunity.
Gadget type operators.
They had the opportunity. They had the opportunity to do some good there, but instead the Boomers, good on them, called them out for being nerds and not getting it. Oh, good to see they're outside and stuff. Yeah, well done, guys.
Yeah,
great job.
You're so scared of your own sport dying that you're going to pay out on some game. That's cool story.
It was a real. It was a
yikes.
It was a bit of a yikes for me.
Yeah.
Soon after, I think the
saying out of the States,
AFL chief called after and said that wasn't it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a saying in the States that every day a baseball fan dies until esports fans are born.
Well, that's an interesting one for me because the aging demographic of the Major League Baseball is a huge issue.
Oh, I thought it was another bad joke.
No.
I'm not good at
so much
esports trainings.
This is the problem with this setup we have is no one ever knows if it's going to be a bad joke or if it's just...
Are you talking about just us in general?
Yeah, just us in general.
Oh, that's the beauty of it all.
Yeah. I think the listeners will be on my wavelength and they'll know where I was going with how baseball players were dying.
Yeah. It's a swing and a miss.
and how two esports players were being indoctrinated.
It's your first strike, Ian.
Okay. Also, Japan really loves baseball, so I think they're good.
I think they're all good. I think they'll be all right. Yeah, but that's an interesting one about demographics. Esports demographics are only growing.
Yeah.
So as we get older, the demographic widens.
Let's move on.
Let's move on from that one.
Every boomer that. No, okay, go on.
Another piece about what's happening. There's a lot happening in OCE this week that we've basically got ourselves into. Yeah, correct. Skrilla, our fantastic partner, who hopefully is still listening at this point. We've derailed.
I think we've gone for.
Did we even mention them at the start?
We did now.
Okay.
Thanks to the beauty of
Dude, we've
Mac.
been derailed.
Thanks to the beauty of editing, they can be in whenever we want them to be.
Exactly. And one of the other bits and pieces we're going to talk to after we touch on Skrilla, we've been talking about stuff that's been happening in Australia. Skrilla are an Australian brand that are supporting Australian esports by reinvesting in Australian esports. Check them out. They've got Fantasy Counter-Strike and for special events like the Major. Certainly great getting on board with that, but also, obviously if you want to have a punt, they offer real or odds on esports as well. So that's
For the record,
excellent.
I will take the loss. The fantasy team that we did for the minor in the Major Pains episode.
Oh, no.
You guys beat me.
I know. We beat you. We won some money.
I think you came 11th,
13th.
13th, and
Lucky
I
number.
came 18th.
Yeah, so that's outside the money. Though.
And basically,
Yeah.
that's because Simple's been having a shit tournament, and also because Gratis Faction let me down.
In gratis fashion.
In the greatest fashion.
We had Grad as well, though, didn't we?
yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Grad and
we
JKs.
had Grat
Yeah.
and Simple, so
Yeah.
his excuses aren't really.
Yeah, they're really
Doing much.
just
irrelevant,
relax.
aren't they?
Anyway, just-
Yeah.
No, basically,
Yeah, carry on.
Continue.
I entered another round
Yep.
and I won some money.
You want some money?
Yeah.
Nice.
Not all is lost yet.
So that was the next round because I was like, but I didn't tell you guys because I
No,
was
no,
you
want
come on
to
this
know. Yeah.
this show exclusively to just talk Counter-Strike, is my understanding.
Yeah. So let's get back to the show, Jim. Thanks, Skrilla.
Let's get back to it.
Yeah.
You guys are so on point with that. It's so good. We've been talking about all things OCE for the moment. Very much a local flavour in this one. But Fortress Esports announced their plans for a new facility in Melbourne. Obviously, it is a huge undertaking, that one. Keen to see how it turns out. They've obviously got a few venue photos and things like that online. It's going to take a very strategic way of implementing that in the Australian market. Don't really know a whole lot about
Just
it.
a lot of hot air at the moment, isn't it, really?
It is,
Yep.
in the sense that it's going to be very interesting to see what they do beyond obviously the plans and announcement. The venue itself obviously looks quite large scale. If you've seen pictures of it, it's
in Melbourne, isn't it?
it's in Melbourne. It's
It's
in
in
the
the
Emporium.
It's also
It's in the middle of Melbourne.
it's also images. Like
Yeah.
they're renders. They're not
Correct.
photos.
renders,
Yeah.
They're very good renders, but
Oh yeah,
They've
and I
got
hope
the
the
space.
photos do look like that.
They do have the space though.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, I'd
the
allow it.
basement of.
that's got to be a lot of coin thrown at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
The-
might even label it a gross over investment.
I remember. I think
Jeez,
Level.
that
Do you
sounds
remember Level
familiar.
Infinity? Do you remember Level Infinity
Correct,
in
yep.
Melbourne last year? The investors that were investing into that, trying to turn it into this great sort of LAN cafe, LAN center place for people to go boot camp, they actually pulled the investment out for that. And this is all I've heard, so let's just say it's speculation.
Yeah.
The people that pulled their investment out for that, and then that closed down, they went straight into Fortress because they caught wind of Fortress and what they were doing.
And
Fool me
Fortress
once.
has, by my understanding, this also could be needs to be fact checked. But my understanding is some of the investors that were originally involved in Order.
It's one.
Is it just the
yeah,
one?
yeah. There's
Okay.
one guy that's auto investor that's also investing in Fortress.
Correct, okay,
Because he was
yeah.
handing cards out on the weekend.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Not making it rain, handing cards out.
So
Yes, handing
they're building,
business
they're
cards
building
out.
this thing. It's a house of cards. Is that what you're saying, Mac?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it could fall over really easily, as is esports, but hopefully it doesn't for the
Well,
sake of the scene.
Look, honestly, I'm not going to
I'll
comment a
support
whole
it.
heap on it because I don't know a lot about it.
It's too early to
But
comment.
what I'm going to say is that it can't fail. And the reason it can't fail is because that is a really bad look for Oceanic Esports
Yep.
in the short term.
Yep.
And I'm keen to see what they do beyond year
I'll
one.
do anything to support it as well.
I'm keen to see what they do beyond year one. I think that's just being a good member of the community. Any initiative
Yep.
that is that.
I'll support it. I'm not going to shoot it down. I'm going to give him a chance to get it right. And and I'll be there. I'll be supporting it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they've got food and beverage locked in with the venue itself. That alone might be enough to get it across the line. Food and beverage.
Alcohol
It's
helps.
enough to try and navigate porridge rights
There
in
is a
certain
bar,
venues
yeah.
and things
Yeah.
like that.
Would
But when
it-
you control the spice, you control the universe. So I'm interested to know what they do with it.
Would it kill GG Easy though? Because that would be.
I don't
sad.
think it will.
I
You
think
don't think it will?
GG is fine.
Because
Plus,
where does the overflow go?
exactly. Because
Yeah, you're
I remember
right.
what was that? Was that PAX? I think it was PAX, and the OPL finals were on at the same time.
Yeah.
The place was full. The queue was around the corner. Everyone from PAX who from Superior
just
Games
PAX,
like
to be
Counter Strike,
honest.
just wanted to be there, and they couldn't get in until this stupid OPL game finished.
Because everyone was watching it.
Yeah. So,
The viewing party.
so there's definitely room for, and I think that's where this thing has seen the demand.
And also,
Yeah.
when he says stupid OPL final, he means OPL final.
I think the other thing that you will need, this will be very interesting to see whether they get right or not. GG Easy is actually just a really good bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like esports aside,
Yep.
is first and foremost a really good bar.
Yep.
It's like
Cozy.
people.
It's got tables. It's got seats. It's got room on the dance
got a
floor.
good drinks
Have you
menu.
eaten the food there, by the way?
Yeah, it's got good food as well.
The food is good. The
Men's
food is
and
good.
women's toilet are very good, very clean. Good
Great
lighting.
for photos.
Good lighting.
I've seen so good
So
light.
many toilet
Sensational photos.
That's all I ever see is
Yeah.
photos from.
All the
GG.
neon lights.
So if there's one thing that you've got to note if you're going to open a venue, it's make sure the lighting in the bathroom's good
This is a
and
really
your
good
branding's
plug
in
for
there as
GG
well.
Easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Lockie, if you're listening, mate, I'll take one next time we're in Melbourne. Just
Yeah, actually, me too.
Yeah, when's the dude's bathroom selfie happening? Is
When
that-
we
I think
get,
we've
Well,
done a
when
couple.
we hit-
I'll
There's
be
been a
honest,
couple.
we don't have that red neon light.
we got the blue one.
Let's bring our own. We got our own signage board.
Yeah.
BYO.
So to bring this back though, Fortress Esports, I'm not really going to comment on that until we see more.
Yeah.
I mean, the initiative is interesting one. We all hope it succeeds for the industry as a whole. I think what Ian's sentiments ring true with all of us, but we need to see a lot more before I think we can really comment about it. Right now,
I
it's
think
just renders.
if they want your help, Sean, they know where to find you.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Yeah.
I think the same
Good.
could be said for
I know
anyone
my
here.
Twitter, all
Yeah.
right? I know my Twitter.
At
We
Stillballer.
know our Twitter tag as opposed to Jordan last week. If everyone enjoyed that
Shout
episode.
out.
SNC.
Shout out, Jordan. So I'm keen to see what happens. As I said, a lot of pressure, can't fail.
Yeah.
If it falls over, that is a bad look. Beyond year one, I want to know what their strategy is.
Don't
Because
forget the
it's one thing, like venues, bars and clubs and all that stuff close all the time.
Well, I just hope they've got good esports advice and things like that, and people providing them with the right sort of guidance. That
The right credentials.
yeah, absolutely.
I want to know. So, have you seen the pictures, everyone?
I've seen a
some
little
of
bit
them,
of the
yeah.
renders, yeah.
You haven't seen the images? Well, okay. What would be your favorite thing that Fortress could potentially do for esports in Melbourne and maybe Australia?
I always like the prospect of having a bar that is a sports bar, esports
I
fashion.
want to watch the esports.
That's mine as well. They have like a event area, which is a bar, but they also have like the big TVs. So, if there's a viewing party for say like TI or something, you just have a bunch of people all sitting there, big area to stand around, watch it. And
yeah.
It's going to require a lot of community
rooftop bar.
support
yeah,
in that regard.
Yeah.
you want a rooftop bar?
Rooftop bar.
Yeah, so a sports bar, rooftop sports bar.
Anything else, Ian? Right,
yeah,
while
if
you
they
rattle
could,
them
if they
off?
could sell some merch as well, esports merch,
Pools?
that'd be good. A pool?
Spa?
Not big on that.
Esports spa.
Esports sauna,
Ooh.
sauna.
Esports and
Yeah.
pools don't mix.
Esports gym?
Okay, we're getting a bit crazy.
Yeah, let's carry on.
let's move on to the next
I
segment.
please hope whoever's helping them come up with ideas did better than this. Just-
I think I've killed it.
I don't. We're getting a bit long in the tooth in the sense that, like, we've talked a little bit about IC. One thing I want to round out on was a tweet I actually saw during the week, and this tweet actually came from one of our recent listeners as well, who gave us some good feedback on the podcast, which was Nick Babir, Sav. So his tweet during the week was, "What's the reason you aren't doing one thing you are passionate about? Curious to see the answers." The following on tweet from that was. Obviously, a few people, it got a lot of engagement. I think that was the point to make, was there was a lot of engagement. And obviously himself being involved in esports and a lot of his following being in esports, this was a tweet that
Hit home.
hit home for a lot of people, obviously because esports is in the stage where it's not able to pay some people that have the skill sets, the relevant skill sets, but by the same token is also a skill set shortage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And a
they're
bit of
trying to
a
attract people into correct. There's a lot more at play, but they're trying to attract people into the space with the skill sets, but they're not going to do so with such small wages. So
It's tricky.
It is very tricky, and obviously this question is targeted at people who may be wanting to get into esports, don't see the money there. Therefore, passion is obviously a big driver for them.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, the whole, if you're working on something you're passionate about, you never work in a day in your life.
We can't relate.
No, I can't relate. It's
Okay.
like, you idiot. You made your hobby your job, and now you work every day.
Yeah.
That's so damn true.
Playing Counter-Strike.
Working every day would be a good thing, I reckon.
You reckon?
If I was doing, cinematography and then esports.
Yeah.
Last couple of weeks have been pretty hectic. It's good.
It's because we've been pumping out content.
Yeah. So you guys don't have to edit it. I get that extra day of
No, but we've got to think about it.
over and over.
I'm editing.
What's going on in his brain, man?
Always working.
So
mate,
with
always
this
working.
tweet, I did catch this. The overwhelming sort of responses.
Can you? I just want to.
Well, I don't know. There was a
follow-up.
tangent happening. I was just
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to bring it back. Your follow up.
Yeah. The follow-up tweet for that was: so those answering money, which is expected.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to do what you're passionate about for less money? I.e., maybe it's worth being on 45k per annum, being really happy versus 90k and miserable. Understand the pressures of family, which come first, obviously. So
like Moe.
Well, yeah. Look, he's actually dead right. It's what you need to weigh up when you want to get into esports. There are people involved in esports right now. My mind jumped straight to some of your content directors or creative directors, as they call themselves now, like your Gileses and things like that, who are incredibly skillful at what they do, that would probably make more money working in a different industry than they're able to within esports.
7-Eleven.
I think
But-
it's
Traffic control.
But
safe
Yeah.
to say most people, not even just creative directors, people in like leadership positions,
100%.
in
It's across the
different
board.
companies.
But I mean, it's also like you said, you're working in industry. There's the other perks that come with it. If you're a really good creative for an organization, you often get traveled around to all the events, get to go to these events, get put up, get to experience and be a part of the team while you're there and things like that. So there's perks that come with esports roles, but definitely you need to take a hit in the pocket if you are to try and transition to esports. If you're coming out of a more traditional industry, I talk about the creative space, it's easier to create analogies for, but if you're coming out of television or whatever it might be where you're using your skill set and coming into esports, you are going to take a hit in the pocket. However, the work environment is different. You are working for essentially small businesses most of the time. That's what these esports orgs are. So there's a lot of benefits that comes with that. But yeah, you're definitely going to take a hit in the pocket.
You got to remember as well, it's only a benefit if you care.
Correct.
Like if, let's say for example, if Giles was, in a full-time, video worker,
Yep.
and then came straight into esports, but had no care in the world for anything to do with esports.
Well, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't take the job.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you say benefit is, we get to fly you to PAX this weekend, and he's walking around and he's like, sweaty nerds everywhere,
Yeah.
not having a good time, don't
So he's
really care.
come from
It's not a benefit. Like he's getting paid
AFL
either way,
commentary.
but there's not the passion.
That's
there.
the thing, and that's why the question is, if you could
Yeah.
get paid less to do your passion. And I think a classic example of that would be me. I had to make a choice when I was in immunity whether I quit my full-time job, which paid very well, for the prospect of full-time Counter-Strike salary, and I wasn't prepared to do it because of the risk, the financial risk. And luckily for me, I didn't. But I've got to say, if you are passionate about esports, right, and if we're going to take that tweet into esports, because it didn't say esports.
It isn't, but
Yeah.
it's safe to say that a lot of his follower base are
Yeah.
esports.
So
Yeah.
if we're going to say you're going to come into esports and you want to do something you're passionate about, just be grateful that you can even get paid for it at the moment.
Yep.
And secondly, if it's your passion, don't quit your full-time job or something to do your passion. Do them both. Just be reasonable.
If
Well,
you can.
It's okay.
You can.
The way I see
You
it
can.
is if you can work something else that gives you stability,
Yeah.
and flexibility,
Yeah.
to do something that you're passionate about, you make what you're passionate about maybe a percentage of what you do, maybe like 10, 20%, whatever you can fit into your week.
Yep.
And if it starts paying more bills, and if it starts bringing in money, you don't necessarily need to jump on it straight and go all in.
Yeah.
Because that's a big risk.
It's all about time versus money versus reward, right? So you want to
Correct.
say, I'm investing X amount of time for X amount of money. You're not going to get a full-time employee for 40K, or less. So work your part-time passion and have your other part-time job and combine the money, and you got a full-time 40 hours a week. Have a nice day.
This is like something that 20 for us, Sean. Like in 2016, we did this.
You did the full-time.
Yeah.
We did we quit our full-time jobs.
Yeah.
We took a huge leap of faith.
Yeah, we did.
And
Oh boy,
we are
did.
very tinny in that regard.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
but in the sense that we basically, we set sail. We didn't we threw off all the moorings of our boat
Yeah.
and just went out into the wilderness, and it was a huge
That's an
risk.
analogy for those at home.
We were
Yeah, they didn't actually.
no, we
No, we didn't
Go
we
out
didn't
to
actually
ocean.
on a boat.
didn't bear
But we were
grylls.
also very, very naive at the time.
100%.
So, I mean, I know you stopped. You had work. You had a full-time role.
Yep.
I was doing full-time uni and deferred that. Jumped on a plane. Within a week of this being tossed up, I deferred uni, jumped on a plane, and we moved into this place in Queensland. It was just like that, all right? And then the byproduct of that is, we did it. We did it on minimal pay. We were going job to job. We were contractors. We were kind of freelancing our production services. We went through a plethora of different people who tried to help us.
Yep.
And for those listening on the podcast, I just did quotation marks over the help us.
Air quotes.
Yeah, air
Air
quotes over the help us. We ran into people who you'd have to call them
Snakes.
scammers.
Snakes in the grass.
Common crooks.
Yeah, we ran into many different things and over many years. But I mean, for us, we managed to get through that. And I mean, we're in positions now where we are with some of the fortunate few that are making
Have been paid
full-time
to do
full-time.
esports.
Correct. Yeah, to do what we're passionate about. And I know we're both incredibly grateful for that. But our path of getting to this point was tumultuous, and we had to take a lot of risks, and we had to suffer at points, like in the hip pocket and our living environment and
100%.
things like that.
Not just in the financial sense too, but like in terms of like our mentalities.
Yeah.
Getting ourselves through that. Like it's a big hurdle and a big barrier. And so when people say that, would you be willing to take less money to do what you're passionate about? Holy shit, you have to be passionate about it.
You have to.
Yeah.
Because it will knock you.
It will.
You'll learn a lot of things that you didn't even think you'd have to face, to be honest. Because
100%.
everyone's all rosy about esports and whatnot. A lot of people come out of the woodwork. Yeah, we can help you. Yeah, I'll do you a deal. Yeah, I'll do this all this stuff. Be really cautious of those people and trust no one, in the sense that
Let's not trust no one, but you definitely need to be wary, right?
do your homework.
You got to do your homework.
Do your homework.
And you need to. I mean, it's almost like you trial by fire, right?
Well,
For
yeah.
anyone getting involved in esports, and
Trust everyone, but trust no one.
Yeah,
know what you're talking about before you get in.
That's a very
Yeah,
difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
having good. See, I mean, we were quite switched on dudes who knew a lot about esports. We knew a lot about production and CS:GO in particular. But when it came to the business side of things, it's safe to say that we were rookies.
We were trialing
Yeah.
ourselves by fire.
We were rookies. But I look back on some of that time period, and we had some great wins, and we had some losses along the way, and we had I wouldn't change it for anything these days, Jim.
No.
I look at it and go, what we were able to learn by going down that path and encountering all the snakes and then all the good times and everything that was sort of
all the long
put
grass.
together, all while doing this because we were passionate about trying to deliver something back to the community.
A few snakes we should
Yeah.
cut the head off.
And I wouldn't change it for anything. So if it wasn't for that experience, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, and I wouldn't have, I guess, the understanding and insight into
You wouldn't
certain
be
parts
as
of
you wouldn't be
esports.
as a baller.
No, I wouldn't be balling like I am right now.
So-
So I'm still balling.
So basically, you guys have gone through the wars and come out pretty good.
Yeah.
So my advice was make sure you know what you're talking about, aka do your research.
Yeah.
You can never research long enough in esports. I
No.
think you can just sit on the sidelines for quite a while. You're not going to miss your boat. Talk to people who are already being successful in the esports industry.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
And then realize too that what you see
Yeah.
is basically the diamond.
The
You don't
rose-coloured
see- You don't see
glasses.
that gold
No.
mine. That's the analogy
Yeah.
we use a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Still rings true. Is like a lot of people will see, oh, he's successful. I see the diamond.
Yeah.
You didn't see all the crap that they had to dig through to find that diamond, shape that whatever it is to get it to that
The
stage.
pressure that was involved.
But
in
like
making
when
that
you're
diamond a
doing your
diamond,
research,
you
you're
know?
going to talk to people who have found success.
Yeah,
And they're going to have their rose-colored glasses on.
100%.
And so I'm just saying, do your research, be reasonable, keep your eye out for things. What would your 3 points of advice be? Since you both really did do all this, I pretty much lucked onto it when it was already going.
Yeah.
Because I was doing it as a passion, I was doing it as a player, and then when I retired, it was like, well, all the other players just disappeared, so I'll guess I'll go into commentating. So for me, not so hard. But for you guys, what would your advice be to people starting up Fortress Esports kind of level things, Zen Gaming, Zen bloody Esports investments?
That's a bit more advanced.
Yeah, but still, it's a passion, right? They all did it for a passion.
Yeah,
they saw financial gain.
Look, I'd probably say this is maybe more aimed at someone that is wanting to try and take on the world.
Yeah.
And
that was us.
100%. 100% wanted to take on the world. But also very green in the business sense. What I said before, trust no one, but what I actually mean by that is trust everyone, give trust out quickly, but be also
don't rely on it.
But be really quick to retract it.
Yeah.
Like if someone breaks that trust, you don't really give them
See, the
second
trust
chances.
thing is a big one.
You've got to trust. You've got to trust
esports.
people. You've got to trust
you
people
have to.
in the first instance because good business is built on trust. But also too, trust is
people trust with their
can be taken away.
bank accounts, Jim.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't do it.
I think
some people have disposable trust.
Yeah, fair
If
enough.
that's-
Fair enough.
You got to put it that way.
Sounds good. Maybe one day.
But that's two bits of advice bundled into one. But it'll be my 2 points, and the third one would probably be, passion may get you into the industry, and when the medicine wears off, passion is going to be what keeps
This
you.
is straight out of the
Yeah.
gym. You've seen this on the gym, on the TV, on the gym.
Mate, I select the music. that goes
Passion
in.
gets you somewhere, but hard work gets you further.
Yeah.
But honestly, when the hard times hit, and they will hit. Like when you jump into a high risk venture where you're not earning as much as you used to, or you're having to make a lot of decisions about your financial future in such a short space of time, passion is actually what will keep you there. Because quite easily, the amount of times that we could have walked away and quit
Oh yeah.
from all of that was
I think that goes for a lot of people. A lot of things in esports, particularly.
I think
if you're a
Exactly.
player, a commentator, doing this sort of stuff, or just
how much
social
free
media.
work?
I
expert.
agree.
How much free work did you guys end up having to do?
too much.
Too much?
We
Because
did
I've
it-
had
we
to do
did
it
a bit.
twice.
We got pretty good at trying to put a price on it, but then
I think
that'd
you had to.
go into weeks and
Yeah,
weeks
for
of
sure.
weeks of trying to justify
have
why
to-
we're worth $5.
I know
an
you
hour,
guys
right?
did a lot.
Free
but-
work is different to
Hold
work
on.
that will net you something.
Yeah.
On your point,
Yeah.
and I do agree with the points that Jim brought up, and I've got one more to add on top of that, and that is, that one of the key things you're going to have to do if you get involved in this industry is self-development, self-improvement within the industry. And what I mean by that is if you're getting involved, it's real easy for you to go, oh, I don't know anything about this, so I'm just going to get someone else on to handle that, right? Which is fine, don't get me wrong. But if you are to be involved in this, and it's something I've spoken about in my esports classes as well, you need to be flexible. You need to start to build your knowledge across areas that may not even be your strong point.
Good.
So, for
Yeah.
instance,
Turn your weaknesses into strengths.
absolutely. When I first went to Queensland, when I first came across to do PGTV with Jim,
You had big curly red hair and a
big head sock, all that kind of stuff. I
He was
didn't
a real
know
yahoo.
anything about production short of what I'd done in high school in special visual performing arts class. Right, I came across and we got a pretty expensive piece of tech out there. For those that may know, a TriCaster was
Still on
what-
it.
yeah,
Still using it.
what we used.
It's bloody noisy.
And I grinded for weeks to try and learn how to use that. The byproduct of that is we were putting out production back in 2016 and 2017
With one person.
with one person that would have instant replays, would have all these amazing graphics. We were almost on par with what anyone else was doing, at least online, for online legs. We had these great little studios with animated displays and sponsor stuff happening and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My point of that was I knew nothing about that coming into it, and it was getting out there and learning about it. Every job I've had in esports now has involved
Getting
me
your hands
having to
dirty.
get my hands dirty. So, when I first went over to Queensland, I knew nothing about social media. Didn't even have a Twitter account. I started one over there. I now
I got him
train
involved.
social media managers up on key metrics, how to put things forward, how to do content plans. All these things I've learned over time are things that if you're going to get involved into esports, you have to be open to learning. If you go in and go, okay, I'm getting involved in esports, but all I do is videography, right? I'm not going to do anything else. Then you're not going to get far in this industry.
No.
Right? You'll get some freelance work and you'll be very good at what you do, but you need to be flexible. If you're looking for long-term career within esports, having flexibility and ability to self-develop and self-teach yourself areas where you're weak. I mean, for us, even just basic things like business. Yeah. You know, the amount of stuff we learned about business and about companies, and we had to speak with different lawyers and all this kind of stuff where we were so green we didn't know our left from our right, to the point now where, you know, for all the stuff you need to know, we know.
I think that's where we're a little bit lucky as well that lawyers have caught up to speed with esports.
They have.
But
Yeah.
we also, like, now we know what we don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So, like, we're at the point, like, we wouldn't say we know everything, but we know what we don't know. And I think that's, in a sense, wisdom, because if you know what you don't know, you get someone who knows how to do it to do it for you.
For sure.
Yeah.
So
100%.
That's the whole, like, you know, get someone, employ people, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. That is wisdom, because it's like, I actually recognize my weaknesses, so I'm bolstering them with people who are strong.
And in esports, though, while you've got those people there, learn as much from them as you can, so you can keep sort of, I guess, evolving your own skill set, and also keep tabs on what they're doing, because it comes back to that trust thing. There are people that you will run into that are interested in this key new emerging market. They'll come at you and pitch you this big dream, so to speak, dream pitches.
And
I
if it
know
sounds
there's
too good
people
to be
out
true,
there.
it is.
Yeah, most likely is. So there's a lot we've learned, but I narrowed it down. Those are some of the key things. Obviously, the points that Jim made, and then for me, that sort of, you know, being open to self-development and pushing yourself is going to be really important.
That is the nature of freelance work too.
Yeah.
So at the moment, a lot of people aren't fortunate enough to be full-time in esports. And obviously my tenure with that at the moment is going to close up soon.
Yeah, you'll be fine though.
But we're working on things to get things going. But by that same token, and you know, you're freelance at the moment too, Mac. So you'll
in two things.
Have
been for 10 years. 5
so
years,
you'll
6
understand this as well. It's like, it's always that question of, do I have to take the next gig? What's the financial pressure like?
There's one that's coming up, and I got to drive like 4 hours. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. Like 4 hours down, 4 hours back, and it's not for a good amount of money. But you have that decision where it's like, do I need it right now? Do I really want to like drive for 8 hours that day to go and make like not a great amount of money? But it's like,
Mate,
yeah, gonna do it, you know, because I'm gonna get to a point.
Contract
you know,
is life.
I gave up my full-time job to, you know, try to push back into esports a bit, because the full-time job was not great. I won't whinge about it now, but you know, freelance just had many more perks to it, of like having free time to then chase the esports dream a little bit more, you know, try to better yourself still. Like when ESEA, I started casting ESEA, they're like, oh, can you do the NA stuff? I'm like, yeah, sure. I started doing it. And then the full-time job, couldn't do the NA stuff because that's our midday. And then had to give that up. They're like, oh, can you do the EU stuff? And I'm like, oh, well, I now live in a one-bedroom apartment. If I speak over a whisper, Jess can't sleep, then there's other issues. So
yeah, things to consider
logistically crazy, but you know, you got to take the leap sometimes. At the moment, it's working. I'm not in the red yet, which is good. I don't know if I'm really going up or down. I'm sort of just living on, you know, like a Dota,
treading water,
a Dota economy graph.
Oh, yeah.
That's my life. It's just like, whoa, now I've got to get a full-time job, get the full-time job. How much time can I last this time?
Yeah,
that's essentially
landed that sweet gig.
Yeah.
You're back again. Cool. I think that's an interesting place to sort of round out. I know you had a point that leads on from that too, Sean. Obviously, life of a freelancer, life of anyone in esports, one of the big problems is, you know, finding that next paycheck.
Absolutely.
And even when you find it, there's no guarantee that it might actually come in.
Yeah, look, this is something that, you know, we've seen recently with NIP overseas as well, some of the issues they've had with payments and players and such. And we know that Iain has brought up the fact that he hasn't been paid his sticker money. And we've seen a lot of incidences within, because it's a young industry, where a lack of understanding around contracts as well between organizations and players, or organizations and freelancers, et cetera, can create...
There were no lawyers back then.
Well, they can create problems, right? Now, back in the day, back in like 2015, 2016, it was the Wild West out here. And Iain can attest to that from a player's perspective. But even just from, you know, an org's perspective at the time, and I'd didn't know anything. I was just on the sidelines in the orgs that I was sort of entering into. But it was the Wild West. It was chaos. There was over-promising, under-delivering. There was, players feeling like they were entitled to more than what their contract stated, et cetera, et cetera. It went both ways. Now,
I think this was actually the start of like contract break fees as well.
yeah.
For no reason.
Yes.
Like you're not getting
Buyouts
shit, but here's
and,
10 grand if you want to leave.
So these sorts of things started popping up, and we've seen it evolve over the last few years as we've become more, mainstream and also a little bit more regulated, self-regulated within the industry. But I'm curious.
Bad word gets around.
It does, yeah, exactly. Well, it goes both ways. If you've got a team that doesn't honor their side of a contract, orgs speak, vice versa. If an org doesn't honor what they're saying they're going to honor, players speak. It makes things difficult.
But it only goes behind the scenes a lot of the time.
Most of the time it does. So now, obviously, we hear the rumblings from different people every now and then about, hey, I wasn't paid for this work I did, or except, I've heard horror stories from some people tell me that, I never got paid, but I just, I gave up chasing it because you pick your battles, right? And I like to think this stuff isn't happening too much anymore as we are becoming more, I guess, regulated. Yeah.
Regulators.
But I want to hear from the community, though, right? I want people out there. If you are a freelancer, if you are a player, if you are a coaching staff or a staff member of any kind of talent from any of the broadcasting agencies, and you have a story to share with us where you haven't been paid or you're not getting paid up until this point, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear about it.
Most definitely. Now,
and you can do that at ES Social Club.
I said we knew it.
ES Club Official, mate.
ES Club Official. That's the one. At ES Club Official on Twitter.
You're in the Jordan bin.
You're in the Team
I've
Jordan.
messed that one up. Yeah.
You really are Team Jamie.
At ES Club Official. And then also you can hit any one of us up individually as well. And we'd love to hear from you, because if this stuff is still going on, I think it's about time that we shed a bit of light on it.
That's different.
Are we going to keep it off the record or on the record?
It'll depend. It depends who comes forward and what they want to do.
Okay.
Yeah? So,
If they say keep me anonymous, I'll keep me anonymous.
Hang on. Do you boys hear that? Special shout out to our sponsor Skrilla, who have been fantastic in supporting us at the podcast. And as we said, a great Australian company offering fantasy esports as well as real odds on esports betting markets too. So check them out. Guys, this has been a fantastic episode. I think we've touched on a lot of topics. We actually have made some ground. There was one topic I sort of left on the shelf there. Might touch on that one in a future
we'll let
episode.
people get back to work.
Yeah, let people go back to work. I do believe, Mac, we have some great news as well, because our podcast has been approved
It has been.
by the head of the orchard at Apple.
New York, the Big Apple.
So-
we Apple it now.
Yeah, we on that
Did you not
iTunes.
see it today? I posted it to the boys.
Of course I saw it. I was just trying to hype it
Go,
up.
Mac. This is you.
Don't
Go,
play
go,
dumb
go.
because you bait me. Sorry. Okay, so, went for the approval process. Only took a couple of days, but wanted to get a few episodes out before we tried to get it on iTunes, so it looked that little bit more legit. And it's there, so all you guys that have
We are
guys
legit.
and gals with iPhones,
We've been training for iTunes.
Apples, Apple Macs, all the other stuff.
I can't help but
You
think
can
about that Rick and Morty episode where he wins an
listen
Apple. Sorry, that's a big side
to the
track.
podcast now. On those things, on that
Cool.
platform.
So does that mean
yeah,
people can rate us on iTunes and just
Don't.
if you want,
okay,
we'll
cool.
probably
I'll
get
just rate
like
myself.
a really bad one.
Please
Because-
support esports.
Someone will just
Rate,
hear
like,
one
and
of Jim's puns.
subscribe.
Yeah.
Jim
Hear a
hasn't
pun from
been
Jim
very-
and just go,
honestly,
1 star. Out
I
of
gotta say, Jim, you haven't been very punny tonight.
Mate, this has been serious topics. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've noticed this, but like, I've had to keep you guys on track.
Yeah.
We've from the first topic, this has been one of those Thomas the Tank Engine style derailments where the carts have just
The troublesome trucks.
the troublesome trucks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not carts.
Mate.
They're,
I'm
co-
just- no,
they're
I'm
coal cuts.
They're the
Favorite
troublesome truck.
Thomas the Tank Engine character?
Obviously Thomas.
Really? You're not a Gordon fan?
No.
Big Green?
Percy. Pretty good.
Percy
too.
was pretty sick.
Percy's a
Toby?
cheeky bugger.
Toby's a tram, mate.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
Percy.
Which one's
We had
It's a cheeky-
we had this
We had this
discussion at
debate.
Hobbyco, so he already knows that I'm an expert on the subject.
We know.
which one's the red one?
That's the next hobby that we're going to get into, isn't it?
Trains.
Model trains.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it?
surely we'll make a train
100%,
podcast.
dude. Have you
Okay.
seen the
Harold the
sets that they
helicopter.
build with there was one that had a Gundam sitting in the middle of it.
Percy.
So they get really into the detail, like little miniature people on the
James. The
countryside.
red one's James.
James, I like James.
So what are you guys doing? You're looking up.
I was looking up what the red train was. in
Do we
terms
have
of
another
tank engine.
question here, or is this our wrap? Are we
No.
doing
No, this is our wrap.
Okay, cool.
Close
But
enough.
we're now on iTunes, and we'd love to hear from you. Obviously, recommend this podcast to your friends as well. Anyone that wants to hear more
Anyone
about esports
esports?
in OCE, or just esports.
I think this
Chat in
episode
general.
is a good example that we're not just Counter-Strike.
Yeah, and look, we are going to be talking about, there's some other topics too that I'm just waiting to get cleared to talk about, but there's some other topics on other esports titles that
That's a
we will be
clickbait.
bringing to you guys soon. These will be exclusive as well. So we'll be breaking some news on some of the other titles floating around OCE.
Do we just
So-
start making like our own little intros to section?
Yeah.
Exclusive.
You heard it here first.
Powered by
Regulators.
Skrilla.
Round up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you guys all said, we're on iTunes. We're also on Spotify, Podbean, YouTube.
Which means you were paying no attention to
Yeah,
it earlier on,
YouTube.
but now you do.
Is that it? Is that all the ones?
Twitch.
And then now, are we on Twitch with these?
We might do some Twitch
You
streams.
follow the Twitch. Why not?
I mean,
You
we
follow
have a
Twitch.
bloody Twitch.
We have a Twitch. You
We're
can
on
follow
there.
the Twitch.
Anyway,
We do
before
live content there.
before we risk sounding like a bunch of old married couples, we're
Playing
going to round this
polo.
one up. Playing polo.
And
Correct.
Just for all my fans out there will be no Max mailbag today because I think the Renegades game started about 5 minutes ago, maybe 10 minutes ago.
Oh, let's go.
go.
Let's go. Wrap
So,
it up. Wrap it up.
All right.
You know, hopefully this
Yeah, the
this
boys.
ending ages well and the Renegades win. Yeah, the boys.
I'm just
Yeah,
going to
the
say it's
boys.
Inferno Mirage. What's the other one? Not Train.
I didn't check. You want me to
No,
check?
I'm just going to guess.
Boys, no current affairs.
Do you reckon Vertigo
I
goes
reckon
for it again?
Vertigo.
Oh.
No.
Not
Enzo
against
play
Eds?
Vertigo.
Oh, right.
Anyway, guys,
Okay.
thank you very much for listening. This has been Not Another Podcast brought to you by the Esports Social Club. We hope to see you next time. Until then,
Train Inferno Mirage.
Training Phantom Mirage.
2-1, I reckon. Yeah, the boys.
Done.